So let's talk about Nikki Haley today. She announced her run for president this week for 2024. And I want to make something clear. I would say right now she's probably my favorite. Actually, she is my favorite candidate out of all of the declared candidates so far, which is pretty much just her, Donald Trump, presumably Joe Biden. That doesn't mean I like everything about her, and I say for right now because oftentimes politicians, they evolve, oftentimes for the worse, and if I say, well, I like her, and then she might say one or a few things that makes me not like her a few months from now, then I'll have to change my mind about whether or not I am actually crazy about her sitting in the Oval Office someday. But watching some of her recent interviews, I have to say, I'm not really impressed. She really comes off as wishy-washy, uncertain, and empty on a lot of these issues. I would expect that if she's deciding to run for president now, she would have a lot more clarity, a lot more stuff figured out. But let's check it out. Let's check out some of these interviews she's done. This was on USA Today just a few days ago.
Your former boss said that you had a hard time making the decision, said that you would never run against the president. He did a great job, was the best president in my lifetime, his words. I told Nikki to follow her heart. She's polling at 1%, not a bad start. Your response to that?
What I'll tell you is I think he was a good president. There was so much that he did that was...
And there's a lot to say about her trying to distinguish herself from Trump. We will get to that. But put that aside for a second.
It's good. What I'm talking about...
Why not support him this time?
Because I think we need to have a new generation. For Republicans, we have lost the last 7 out of 8 popular votes for president.
I think Nikki Haley obviously has put herself in a difficult spot when trying to distinguish herself from Trump because, like most Republicans for the last 5 to 7 years, she has had to kiss the ring, so to speak, play along to get along. I think she did serve as the ambassador to the United Nations during Trump's presidency. So she has a history of saying good things about Trump. So she obviously can't just throw them all away, but she also has to distinguish herself from Trump because she's running against him.
It means Republicans need to do something different.
Is it the message or is it the messengers?
I think it's always both. It's always got to be someone who really does listen to the people, that has their pulse on the ground of what real families are going through. But I also think it's how you communicate. I don't want just Republicans with me. I want everybody with me because I believe that everybody wants to be proud about America.
Let's talk about abortion for a moment. The senior senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, has proposed a federal ban.
All right, abortion, everyone's favorite topic.
On abortion. Would you sign that?
We need...
South Carolina, Lindsey Graham has proposed a federal ban on abortion. Would you sign that?
We need consensus on this. Our goal
consensus on abortion. Would you support a federal ban?
I think not a full-out federal ban, because I don't think that's been put on the table. I think what...
SpaghettiOs!
I think what Lindsey Graham has put on the table is 15 weeks. And I think if we're looking at 15 weeks, what we need to understand is we are not okay with abortion up until the time of birth. And so we should at least decide, when is it okay?
A decade ago,
All right, so this is one of the issues I'm talking about. Now, put aside whatever your personal take on the whole abortion debate is. Put it aside because it's not really relevant. I think politicians, in 2024, it's going to be the first presidential election in the post-Roe v. Wade America. And I think politicians, especially presidential candidates from both parties, I think they need to have their shit figured out on this issue. And this answer kind of strikes me as uncertain, wishy-washy when she says, oh, well, we have to have a consensus. And he's like, would you sign a full abortion ban? Well, it's not on the table. Well, if it was on the table, would you sign it? Oh, well, Lindsey Graham, he proposed 15 weeks, and she wouldn't even give a clear answer on that. And I think why this is important is because I do think For better or worse, in 2024, there will probably be a lot of Americans where this is the issue where they decide they want to vote. And on top of that, I think no matter what your position is on this issue, whether you're radically anti-abortion to the point where you want to outlaw it at conception, or you're radically pro-legalized abortion where you want to keep it legal until birth, or you're somewhere in the middle, outlaw at 6 weeks, outlaw at 12 weeks, outlaw at 15 weeks, outlaw at 19 weeks, 22 weeks. No matter where you fall on that debate, you are going to piss off and disappoint a lot of people. Obviously, if you go one of the two extremes, you're going to piss off both the moderates and the extremes on the other end. Yet, if you take a more moderate position, which is where I think most Americans are, you're going to piss off both extremes on the spectrum. And even I saw one of the Democrat accounts on Twitter was they were smearing Nikki Haley for signing an abortion ban with no exceptions. I had to look into that. It's like, wait a minute, didn't she was a governor like way before Roe v. Wade got overturned, and it turned out her abortion ban I think was at 20 weeks. So is it fair to really call it a full-on, to frame it as if it's a full-on abortion ban? I don't think that it is, but I do have a lot of questions. If I a voter, if this is a concerning issue for me, I want to know if the president, if they're in a position to sign a law that might make abortion illegal at conception. Because right now, I don't get that impression from Nikki Haley. I have no fucking clue what she's going to do if she gets any piece of abortion legislation put on her desk. And if she were to take a spot like, look, I think 15 weeks is reasonable. I think 20 weeks is reasonable. That's what she signed when she was even like, going to her website. This is another issue I just have with politicians in general. And I noticed this has been a growing trend ever since like 2018, the midterms. You ever go to a politician's website? First, you're automatically met with, give me money. Before you might see a little link that says continue to the website. It's like, listen, lady, I want to know where you stand on all the issues, okay? I try to be an educated voter. I try to put some thought into these things. And the first thing I see is give me money before continuing to, and then I click continue to the website. And this is what I'm met with. There's no like on the issues, where Nikki stands on these issues links, just donate, fundraise, volunteer, shop, watch, membership. There's no link to like where she stands. The closest you get is if you scroll all the way to the bottom past all this shit. Give us your phone number. Jesus.
Blow it out your ass.
If you go all the way to the bottom, you get a record of results where you can maybe get some semblance of where she stands. But this is her results. It's not like what she's going to do as president, which I find incredibly frustrating. Record of results. On her own website, she talks about how she stands up for the unborn. And she outlawed abortion at 20 weeks. But this still doesn't really give me a sense of how she's going to govern as president. But it's not just the abortion issue where she comes off to me as very wishy-washy and uncertain.
Supported.
But even if she took a stance that I disagreed with, it's like, okay, well, that's something I can take into account when deciding which Republican I might want to come out of the primary or who I want to select as president.
Significantly scaling back Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Should those social safety nets be scaled back?
Should we reform those entitlements? Yes, but should we take anything from people who've already been promised?
Okay, I like she's saying that we need to reform them because 90% of politicians today, both Republican and Democrat, don't really seem to have an interest in touching entitlements.
No.
When you say reform, what do you mean?
You go and everybody that's been promised money, they get it. We don't take it from anybody. But these new ones coming in, They know what's going to be broke by the time they get there. Those are the ones we fix. The younger generation, we go and we do a new system on how they're going to get it.
So you would phase out Social Security and
Not
Medicare
phasing.
and Medicaid as we know it now. You would phase it out.
You change it. You're not phasing it out.
Oh, it seems like
You're not-
semantics if you're saying that.
You are saying change it out.
So you
This is another thing where it's just like, I don't know what her plan is for Social Security. I like that she's talking about reform, but I would also like to get a better idea of what she means by reform. And even here, she's kind of wishy-washy, dances around, and what might help clarify this issue if she said something like, why don't you go to my website right now? What is it? NikkiHaley.com, and I have a point-by-point plan on how we're going to address Social Security for the long term. But not only do we not get that, but if you go to her website, I mean, she doesn't really have any plans. She doesn't have a vision, it seems like. This is what I'm not liking about Nikki Haley so far. I get a lot of uncertainty, a lot of wishy-washy, doesn't know where she stands. And then she had this other interview, another clip from USA Today.
You said that if former President Trump was going to run, you wouldn't run. It's been reported that a couple weeks ago, you call your former boss.
And I guess Radical Liberty in the chat is saying she just seems so fake. Yeah, I'm getting that impression. I hate to say it because, again, I'm saying this as someone who wants to like Nikki Haley and wants to see her win. But when I watch these interviews, I'm very disappointed, I gotta say.
Boss, you asked for it.
And I also should add that I get that as a radical for liberty, as a radical for capitalism, I'm not going to get perfection anytime soon. We live in a mixed economy with two parties that are both mixed bags. And I recognize that with any politician, whether it's mayor, city council, U.S. Senate, president, governor, any president I select, I'm probably, any politician that I vote for, I'm probably going to have to eat at least a little bit of shit. So it's not like I'm trying to expect perfection. I'm just, I think these are some issues that Nikki Haley needs to work on, because already, like, she's not polling very well. A lot of people already don't have confidence that she can win a Republican primary, which is probably accurate. And this wishy-washiness, I don't know any other words. Flaky, is that another good word? Flaky, uncertain, unsure. It's not making me confident in her, let's just say.
His blessing to run, and he said that
Even if I was confident that she could actually win, I'm just like, I don't know what the hell I'm getting.
that you called him the greatest
Do I like her? I like Haley a lot more than DeSantis. I really do. DeSantis is another guy that I really wanted to like. I had a pretty, I wouldn't say high, but I had a much higher opinion of him in the early days of COVID. I think he gets a lot of credit for standing up against the lockdown advocates, including those from his own party, and doing what he thought was best for Florida. I think it seemed to work out pretty well for Florida, relatively speaking. And Nikki Haley, I think she's better on immigration than most Republicans. She's better on trade than most Republicans. From what I can tell, she's better on foreign policy than most Republicans, and that's kind of where Republicans are going. They're going in the direction of trade restrictions, anti-immigration, blame American first foreign policy. Anyway, more on Nikki Haley.
president. If that's true, then why run against him?
I'm going to keep that phone call personal. I didn't ask. I told that I thought that we needed to go in a new direction. But when I first said I wouldn't run against him, Afghanistan hadn't fallen. We didn't see the rise in inflation.
Ooh. Are we hearing Haley kind of blame Trump for what happened in Afghanistan? Because while it did happen under Biden, and Biden, I think, is responsible for the pathetic pullout, Trump got that ball a-rolling.
Like we've seen, we didn't see what was happening in our schools the way it was, and we didn't see the results of the midterms that we just had. It is time.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Now she's kind of I think she's kind of pussyfooting around going at Trump. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But I think this is one of the ways to go after him. Kind of suggest that he's kind of a loser, right? All right, this is another issue I wanted to focus on.
Elected. That's pretty strong. And a few months ago, you
Fair as possible.
in your speech, you said of China that China will end up on the ash heap of history if you're elected. That's pretty strong. And a few months ago, you said that China was closer than ever to invading Taiwan. If China does invade Taiwan, should there be a military response?
It's a big question.
From the United States?
Republicans and Democrats for too long thought that if we were nice to China, they would want to be like us. They don't want to be like us. They want to destroy the West.
I think I'd like to add context to this because, I think it's true. This is definitely true about the Chinese Communist Party and the political leadership in China. I think the idea was that if China liberalized a little bit, freed up their markets, then the people in China would recognize the value of free markets and freedom, and that people in China would eventually embrace freedom. Now, has that manifested politically in China? It doesn't look like it has, unfortunately. But as we know, dictatorships are not exactly sustainable long term. Even right now, China, as a result of their dictatorship governments, is having a lot of economic problems at the moment because of their the incompetence and corruption and oppression from the Chinese government. So I think it was said that like sometime in the 1980s, like a lot of people, the attitude of many people at the time in the 1980s was that the Soviet Union was going to go on forever and ever, and they were going to be this threat forever and ever. No one, like very few people thought in the 1980s that the Soviet Union was going to fall within their lifetime. And then it happened by the end of the 1980s. So if it could happen in the Soviet Union, what makes us think that it could not happen in a place like, say, communist China? If things got really bad and people, the billions of people in China, started losing trust and faith in their government, maybe China could change for the better politically. But I guess when we're talking foreign policy, we have to really consider the political leadership because, unfortunately, in communist China, the dictatorship is not exactly acting on the consent of the governed when they don't really have free speech or free elections.
To change the way we look at them. And so that means we should have a strong military. And for God's sake, we should not have Americans look up at the sky and see a spy balloon from China.
But notice what she's doing right now is he asked her, hey, if things get ugly in Taiwan, do you want to get involved? And she kind of dances around it at first. She does this a couple times in these interviews.
Looking back down on us. And if we do those things, Craig, there won't be an issue in Taiwan. Because if you
okay, never mind.
Are strong.
I guess that's her position. Like, hey, if we're strong, if I'm president, China won't even think about fucking around in Taiwan.
And China knows that we mean business. They're not going to make that move.
Which might be true. But it's a big question, foreign policy-wise. If China invades Taiwan, and put aside your position on whether or not the U.S. should come to Taiwan's aid, this is a question that I think is important for voters. If you think the United States is obligated to defend Taiwan, yeah, you might look at this and think, no, I want a good answer. I want to know that we're going to come to Taiwan's aid. Because if we let Taiwan fall, what's next? South Korea, Japan, Singapore? Or you might have the perspective of, look, I have relatives, I have loved ones in the military, and while I wish the best for Taiwan, I don't want my relatives dying to go defend Taiwan. So I would like a politician, I would like a candidate for the position of chief of the armed forces, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, to have their minds made up on this issue so I know how to vote accordingly. And again, Nikki Haley comes off to me as kind of wishy washy here.
Are strong, and China knows that we mean business. They're not going to make that move.
If they do invade, should there be a military response?
I think we have to look at that when that happens. But
Not a yes or no.
what we do
Just,
is
maybe we'll look at that when it happens.
the backs of our
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
There's some daylight between you and the other declared candidate for the Republican nomination on that front.
There's some daylight between me and Joe Biden because Joe Biden was slow to the
But to
take.
be fair, Madam Ambassador, you have to win the primary. You're talking about President Biden a lot, but there are only two candidates in the Republican primary right now. It's you and your former boss.
No, and you guys are obsessed with me talking about him. But what I'll
Well, there
tell
are
you
only
is
two candidates.
it's okay. I don't kick sideways. I kick forward.
Yeah, she doesn't kick sideways. She kicks forward.
What I'm telling you is Joe Biden has not led.
Let's talk about
Keep that in mind. She doesn't kick sideways. She kicks forward.
the primary field back in 2016.
And what I know she kind of had some jabs here and there, but overall, I get the impression that she's kind of timid to really drop the gloves and go after Trump. Okay, now let's check out this clip, this interview Nikki Haley did on Sean Hannity.
We need new generational leadership. We have to leave the status quo.
Remember, she was saying this in the USA Today interviews. We need a new generation.
We have to leave this
Egg General says, own the libs.
What are you, on the left?
chaos behind, and we've got to start talking about the future. You need a Washington outsider that's going to come in and say, yes, I understand that families are having to pay more to make their grocery bill. I understand that they are worried about their children who may never get back from what they lost during COVID. I understand the fact that when someone's factory leaves town, he's worried that his future went with it. I understand that you should not have Americans looking up at the sky and seeing a Chinese spy balloon looking
This is another talking point she just parroted from the USA Today.
back at them. This is insanity. And what we need are a lot of changes. First of all, we've got too many politicians in D.C. that are past their prime. We have to have term limits in Congress. We need to see competency tests for any.
Remember, the question is, what's the difference between you and Trump, considering that it's only you two candidates so far? She's going off on this long spiel about how we need new leadership. Not really explaining what sets her apart from Trump. Just says, too many people are past the age of 8, which might be true.
Elected official over the age of 75. We've got to stop the spending addiction that is happening, that is causing inflation to go up. And we need to start realizing that we don't need our politicians getting on TV and talking. We need the people in D.C. doing, and we need to spark a fire up under them. And that's what I'm willing to do. And if you are tired of losing, because we've lost the last 7 out of 8 popular votes for president, we're doing something wrong. If you're tired of losing, then join me and go to NikkiHaley.com because we are.
And if you go to NikkiHaley.com, first you're met with donate to me. Now this is it. Go to Nikki Haley. This is what you see first. Donate. You don't really get again you check the website. You don't get any links about where she stands on the issues, what her vision for America is. You have to scroll all the way to the bottom. It's quick about Nikki or her results, which might give you a semblance of where she might govern, but no plan. I guess Action Center. Oh, this is just to get involved. I got to say, I'm really disappointed.
We're going to go and fight for a strong and proud America again.
Are you saying that the reason Republicans lost the popular vote, I mean, we have an electoral college vote system for the very reason that big cities like New York.
Egg General brings up a good point. Isn't that what Trump did? Washington. Yeah, this is I hate to say it sounds very cliche. You hear this, are you tired with business as usual in Washington? Well, vote for me, and yeah, that was Trump. He was going to drain the swamp, remember? And then his cabinet was just a revolving door of idiots. And the ones who weren't idiots got fired, and then Trump would at first brag about how brilliant the people he hires are, and once they butted heads, he talked about how terrible they were.
And big cities in New Jersey and Chicago and Los Angeles and San Francisco won't be deciding presidential elections. Are you saying that if you are the nominee, you believe you can win the popular vote outright?
I know I can. I know that you will see that we will get people that will come into our fold.
Now, I understand both perspectives on the whole popular vote. On one hand, it really does not matter when winning a presidential election. On the other hand, I do think winning the popular vote, at least by a significant margin, kind of shows that either one candidate is very popular or one candidate is not that popular. Which is, I think, a message that was lost on a lot of Republicans after Trump won. He did not win. He did win the election in 2016. I'm not one of these election deniers from the left. But I do think him winning the election, but not the popular votes, did signal that maybe he was not that popular amongst the American people. Whereas a lot of Republican strategists, commentators, pundits, and politicians, they took the Donald Trump victory and just assumed, oh, well, this is what America wants. They want this this craziness. They want this circus. This is what's popular. And I don't think it's a coincidence that ever since 2018, they lost the House. 2020, they lost the Senate and the presidency. 2022 was a red trickle at best. And what have Republicans done ever since? Maybe Nikki Haley had said, wait a minute, maybe Trump isn't that popular. Maybe his policies are popular, but maybe him himself is kind of toxic, especially with the way he handled the 2020 loss. Or it looks like a lot of Republicans, a lot of pundits, a lot of strategists have concluded, like, well, Trump didn't actually lose. He had his landslide election victory stolen. Really good way to evade responsibility. That's what happens when you elect someone who is probably not what I might call reality-oriented.
Our goal is we are not about compromises. We are not about changing who we.
She says this, and you recall one of the other clips when she talked about abortion. See it in the title. We got to find a consensus on abortion. Okay, well, you say you're not a compromiser, yet on abortion you're like, well, I'm not going to take a position because first I need to find out where I need to compromise.
We're about fighting boldly for what we believe, but convincing our opponents to be with us. And that's the part that's going to change. We need to expand our tent. We have to bring Hispanics in. We have to bring the Jewish community in. We need to bring the Asian community in. We need to bring African Americans in because our policies are right. Our policies are good. We focus on lifting.
What exactly are those policies, Nikki?
Up everybody, not just a select few. But we have to start talking in a way that brings people in. And
one of the positives of Nikki Haley's candidacy already is that a lot of people on the left, I think, are kind of exposing themselves for being a little racist. Making it all about her, the fact that, oh, Nikki's not your real name.
Blow it out your ass.
Ugh. People still do this shit even after this got blown out of proportion with Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz.
That's what we can do. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that D.C. is broken. It's been broken for a long time. We have to have the courage to walk away from the status quo, walk away from all the past problems, and say we are not going to leave this country to our children. We're going to make sure that we leave our country better for our children because they deserve it. And you could see thousands of people in South Carolina and around the country agreed with us today.
Let me go back to my original question, though, because anybody
going back to the original question
is looking or seeking a nomination, you're going to be comparing and contrasting your policy positions, your views, what direction you want to take the country with your competitors. Right now, there's former President Trump is the only other candidate for the nomination. We expect many others, maybe even Mike Pompeo, who was on earlier in the program today. Where do you see, if you see, policy differences beyond what you mentioned, which are generational differences? What specific policy areas would you
what specific policy areas
say part with Donald Trump?
What I am saying is I don't kick sideways. I'm kicking forward.
Really? Didn't we already hear that? I don't kick sideways. I kick forwards.
It's okay. I don't kick sideways. I kick forward. And
Yeah, guys. This is the policy position I'm getting from Nikki Haley. I don't kick sideways. I kick forward.
About him, but what I'll
Well, there
tell
are
you
only
is,
two candidates.
it's okay. I don't kick sideways. I kick forward.
That was USA Today.
What I am saying is I don't kick sideways. I'm kicking forward. Joe Biden is the
I mean, she sounds like Chat GPT with these like recycled lines.
president. He's the one I'm running against. And what I'm saying is you don't have to be 80 years old to be president. We don't need to have these same people going back again. We need something new. We need a new generation of fighters.
And again, okay, you're right. We need something new, but how is what you're bringing to the table new? You're not really answering that question.
We need people that understand where the American, your average American, is coming from, and we shouldn't be afraid to fight for that. And that's what I'm willing to do. I'm not going to kick sideways. I don't have time for that.
Again,
That's not my focus. I'm kicking forward. It's all about Joe Biden, and it's all about the people in America winning again. And that's why
you're not going to get to Joe Biden if you don't get through Trump first, and it doesn't help that you're dodging these questions.